Hi, I wanted to do a quick video on the trigger state feature. Typically, when I create a YouTube video, I do several takes, record myself like 10 times until I'm satisfied with my audio quality. Now for my Patreon page, I'm planning on regularly showing work in progress, and to achieve that, I need to reduce the amount that I invest into each video. So apologies if this video turns out a bit rougher than the other videos, but I think it's important to keep everyone informed on what I'm doing. So the trigger state feature rewrites how triggers and regions interact and allows for several new features. The first feature I want to show is removing a limitation that VGOROS had since forever. In VGOROS, the first trigger sets dynamic information. And with dynamic information, I mean icons, progress, and some other bits of information. Now, with the trigger state feature, that changes. There's a new combo box here, where you can control where the dynamic information should come from trigger 1 or trigger 2, or the new mode, which is use dynamic information from the first active trigger, which means if trigger 1 is active, the dynamic information from it will be used. If trigger 1 is not active, but trigger 2 is, then the dynamic information from trigger 2 will be used. Let me demonstrate that. This is the aura that has two triggers. The second trigger triggers on Rupture, and the first one on Envenom. So if I build up a few combo points, and first apply Rupture, as you can see, I forgot to set cooldown. If I now use Envenom, since Envenom is the first trigger, Envenom is shown. Once Envenom runs out, Rupture is shown again. Next, I want to show the improvements to the combat lag trigger that the feature enables. There are a couple of them. I have here a combat lag trigger that triggers on spell damage by me with an amount over 5000. And here's the first new feature, clone per event. This trigger will show one clone per event that matches those conditions. In the text field here, you can see a strange hash spell name hash amount hash. Those are new text replacements for the combat lag trigger. And as you can see in the tooltip, there are a couple available. And the last new feature for the combat lag trigger is that the icon is now automatically set. Due to how spells work, sometimes the icon might be not that of the spell you are casting, but of some internal spell that is triggered by your spell. So let me show that. And as you can see, here's one clone per event that does more than 5000 damage. Those features are also available for other triggers. For example, I added clone support to to all of the Bigwigs and Deadly Boss Mod triggers. And I also added additional text replacements to a few other triggers. The data in those text replacements is also available for custom text functions. For example, if I wanted a shorter spell name in the combat lag trigger that I just showed, I could use this custom function. It uses auraenv.state, and in auraenv.state the member spell name, and takes the first 3 characters of that, and then the display looks like this. The last new feature I want to demonstrate is that custom triggers can now also create clones. I have here a dynamic group with a custom trigger. In this combo box here is a new custom function type trigger state updater, which has only one function instead of the many that event or status triggers have. That function has to do a bit more work then. I won't go over this function because I've already written documentation for it, and the video is not a good medium for documentation or for this explaining how that works. What I wanted to show is that this trigger creates a clone precursor, and it does that in around 20 lines of code. So the last topic I need to cover is why isn't this in WeakAuth yet? And the reason for that is that it isn't yet bug-free. So I'm currently trying to understand the bugs and trying to fix them, and I have no idea, frankly, how much work that is. Bug fixing is always a surprising amount of work.